What's up guys, today's video a little bit different. We're going to actually talk about progressing into a handstand from virtually nothing. So as long as you've got the requisite upper body strength, then we're going to be able to go all the way through. And this one is mainly about technique anyway. It's mainly about building stability, building balance, and just making sure that obviously we can go from not doing a handstand since you were a kid all the way through to being able to hold a decent, relatively well-balanced handstand. You may be able to walk on your hands without doing a handstand. If you can walk on your hands, that's fine, but I'd always suggest being strong enough and balanced enough to actually put this exercise in. If it's something that you've wanted to do for a while, I know that people tell me all the time that it's actually something they really enjoy. It's a great exercise for your shoulders, really good body weight exercise to be trying to master and trying to get used to, and it looks pretty cool as well. So from point zero, the first thing that you're going to do is get used to feeling your hands in contact with the floor, building the muscles in your forearms and in your wrists, just to make sure that you can actually handle that position. First thing that we're going to do for that is hands are going to come down just wider than shoulder width, and by just wider, I mean that your thumb is going to be almost directly under your shoulder. From there, all it's going to be is just rock forward, so knees on the outside of your arms, upper arm not directly on your elbow, just above. You're just going to rock forward. And all I want you to do is press your fingers, press your thumb, press everything into the floor. Just try and build that strength, and then one at a time, and just get a feeling for how that feels. You may find that one hand feels like you really struggle to get any force through in those positions. That's fine, because that's going to build up as we go through this progression. Now, once you get comfortable with that, we're going to start to put in an element of balance and a bit more of a strength requirement. So the exact same position, but this time, and if you've done yoga, you'll have done this before, but this time you're just going to rock all the way through into a frog stand, and just try to hold that. Again, knees sit outside of the upper arm, and we're just holding this position. And then back down, and again, a couple of reps, hold it for 5, 10, 15 seconds, wherever you're up to. This progression, by the way, took me from not doing a handstand since I was a kid all the way through to being able to hold pretty reasonable handstands within a couple of weeks. So again, don't rush it, but make sure that you go through this a couple of times a week. You'll get used to this. Once you've done with your frog stands, we can then progress a little bit further. And if you're comfortable with them and you can do 3 sets of 15, 20 seconds comfortably, you may want to push it a bit further. All we're going to do is try and rest our knees a little bit higher. This means that everything gets higher, arms get a bit more vertical, and we start to get a little bit more specific to the handstand position. So exactly the same hand position, really feeling the floor, making sure that you get feedback through your hands. And this time we're just going to sit a little bit higher onto your arms. Hips are going to lift a bit higher, so it's more resting towards the top of your triceps as we go through that, top of your upper arms on your triceps. That's where we're intending to be. And again, same progressions, make sure that you do a couple of sets on that, make sure that you get comfortable with that position. And then from there, you're going to go straight into the handstands, but there's a couple of strength exercises that I want to show you alongside this as well, that you can put in from early on. Obviously, to do a reasonable handstand, we need a good amount of shoulder strength, need a good amount of upper body strength, and you need to be able to just get comfortable in that inverted position. There's an exercise against the wall that's really good for that. So all we're going to start with is just coming up into the wall and just trying to get used to this position. You want to keep tension through your core and just look down between your hands and just hold this position. You're trying to really extend and keep your hips nice and high on that one. You're trying to extend your body nice and long, and just make sure that obviously you're in control of that movement. Now, before you sort of leave that one, there's another progression from that before we go into a full handstand. What we want to do is just allow ourselves in that position to start to just kick away from the wall a little bit. Not enough to come back down, but just enough to feel ourselves balanced in that inverted position. So all it's going to be, again, kick back through, and then 1 foot at a time, start off just walking that away from the wall. And then you're going to have just short amounts of time, just kicking away and back in. And you'll notice a lot of feedback, a lot of balance, a lot of little adjustments. And from there, if you put that in alongside the frog stands and alongside those progressions, then you're going to be ready to go into the final part of your handstand. So guys, the last part of this handstand progression, there's two parts to this. There's a pendulum, and then we're going to go into the full handstand. Now this is just a progression from stepping in through the pendulum movement into the handstand. So you don't need to define these as separate exercises. It's just once you're getting your balance from the pendulum, we can start to progress it into the full handstand. So the pendulum movement, all we're going to do, starting off, is simply just kicking into that handstand position. So it's simply coming through here, nice and steady. Now you may overshoot this, so you may need to walk your hands out a little bit to rescue it. Make sure that you've got space, make sure that you've got a good surface. So again, just steady, coming up, 1 foot leads, nice and steady. And if you do overshoot, just find it simple to just walk your hands through and then return. You're going to find that that's happening, but obviously that's not ideal. What we're looking for is just a solid handstand position where we remain in balance. So all it's going to be is that as you're going through that pendulum, your intention is to gradually pull yourself into a full handstand position and then hold for as long as possible. So again, this will take a couple of weeks, but once you can, just coming up and just holding a little bit longer each time, just in through there. So guys, hopefully this is a progression that you can put to use. It can be additional to your training plan. It doesn't have to be the actual training plan itself. Make sure that you're fairly fresh for these because there's a lot of technique to it, there's a lot of strength required, but hopefully go and enjoy learning to do a handstand again and learning to do a little bit of work with body weight again. Cheers guys.